I suppose the easiest thing for me to do is talk about my childhood, growing up, what I went through as a person. You see, I've probably done so much more that you've not done. Not necessarily it's good, but you know, I've got drunk, I've had fights, you know, I've done drugs, I've been arrested. I've done many things that, you know, that are stereotypical to a normal Western civilised society. Whether you call it civilised or not, I don't know. But the question that kept arising in my mind is that, you know, you can drink, you can do drugs, you can do these things, whether they're right or wrong, and it's like kind of self-gratification. It's all about pleasing yourself. But the thing, when you come away from that, is that you're still left with you, and you're still left with your thoughts. You know, the worst thing about drinking is you have an hangover. The worst thing about doing drugs, you have a come down. The worst thing about a fight is you have bruises the next day. The worst thing about it all is the only person you're hurting is yourself. You're not finding out who you are, because what you're finding out is what is good within society, what kind of aspects of, you know, this and that. Whether it's good at the time is irrelevant. It's whether it's good in your heart. So what I started doing is, I say I was kind of, as a teenager, very mischievous, very naughty, I did what I wanted to do. And then I kind of grown into adulthood as being this rebellious child. And the trouble is, if you're a rebellious child, you become a rebellious adult. And this is not kind of fair. So I kind of just grow up, you know, from one job to the other, never having no solid foundation of who I was as a person. You know, there was never no kind of solid structure. I was free to do what I wanted to do. And I went from one job to the other. And then 3 years ago, I lost a child through pregnancy. And it was very hard for me to understand. And I kind of questioned everything. And I wondered why. You know, why could somebody take a baby away from me? Why could somebody do this? And I became quite a stern atheist at that point. You know, well, you know, if this is God's path, this is God's choosing, then, you know, what sort of God is He? You know, take my child away from me. What's He think He's doing? You know, nobody has the right to take my child away from me. That's the way I thought. So I started looking at evolution, because I've always been a very curious person, and I've always had a lot to do with people of different ethnic backgrounds and different religions. So I started looking into evolution, and I thought, right, you know, this evolution is quite solid. It's, you know, there's a lot of evidence here to back it up what it's saying. But then you look at evolution, and all of a sudden you've got this gerbil. The next thing you've got a monkey. Where's the bit in the middle? Where's the bit that connects it? So then I started questioning that. I thought, well, no, that can't be right, because how can you have one thing to another thing? There's got to be this transition. You can't have just a gerbil, a monkey, a man. There's got to be a transition between them all. So then I started looking at religion. Like I say, very curious. I wanted to know. You know, a brother Khalid here, that I've known him for 4 years, and he left a major impact on my life. You know, after speaking to him and how he humbled me. I thought, you know, what's he got that I ain't got? You know, why is he always smiling? You know, what's he doing with those stupid clothes on, that funny hat? You know,
must be the turban.
Yeah. I thought it's probably what he's got. You know. So then I looked at Christianity. Now, obviously, for a kind of working class white person living in England, you know, the normal road would be to go, if you was looking for some sort of direction in life, would you go towards Christianity? You know, it's the normal kind of progression. You know, if you turn around and say to your mum, I've gone to church, she ain't going to say anything, she's going to go, all right, no worries. You know, I said to my mum, I'm going to be a Muslim. She says, oh, when are you going to be a suicide bomber? This is the truth. This is what she said to me. Another person said to me, says, what do you want to be a Muslim for? The old smell. I says, what are you on about? Every time we go to the toilet, they wipe the bums with water. This is the truth. So I kind of looked at that, but then for me, Christianity held no strength, held no bearing, because it contradicts itself. Because you've got the Trinity, which contradicts itself. You've also got people that believe that Jesus was God. Then you've got people that believe Jesus was the Son of God. So you think to yourself, well, you know, if that ain't really right. And then you looked at the New Testament, and this is the thing that I did. I mean, I was quite naive to religion. I thought, well, if you've got a New Testament, where's the Old Testament? Where's the bit that was at the first? Because surely if you're going to speak about somebody, if you're going to speak about the prophet, Jesus, peace be upon him, you're going to talk about what he did there and then. You're not going to talk about what people have wrote 1,000 years later or 1,500 years later. Surely you're going to talk about the truth. So then it held no bearing in my heart, and it had no strength to keep me there. So to me it was, oh, I'll go back to the old evolution thing. I want to have a look at that. And then I looked at other religions and different aspects of it. I looked at Hindus. I said, well, no, they're into cows, ain't they? They're into these arms and stuff. So that can't be right. You know, when they have something to eat, they get all cow wheat and start chucking it on them. I didn't know that because he told me. I thought, that can't. I ain't going to go down the farm and get a bucket of cow wheat. You know, so look at me and think of a bit strange. But then I kept coming back to this man here, and he, like I say, he left this impression on me. And then I met another brother from Leicester I worked with. And he also left another impression on me. So I thought, right, you know, I'm going to have to look into this then. But obviously, the media only portrays Muslims in a certain light. We all know this, there's no denying it. You know, everything that's about Muslim in media, Western media, is portrayed in a negative environment. You know, you've only got to get one extremist who's a Muslim to do something, and every single one of us is tied with the same brush. I mean, I can't wait for the first time I go through customs. It's going to be fun, especially if I change my name and my passport and I go in this white skin, blue eyes and this. I'm going to be a target straight away. So then I started looking at that, and I looked on the internet and my YouTube. What it's a fantastic resource. There's some real dodgy stuff on there as well, but there's some good stuff. And I started looking at that and looked at people that reverted, and that was a great insight. Then I looked at the Quran, and what I did is I got an audio thing off the internet. And as soon as I started listening to it, it just, boom, that was it. I thought, this is it, this is it. Because nothing's been changed. Exactly how it was written 1,400 years ago. There's no alterations. There's nothing in it that can be looked upon and you can turn around and say, well, you know, you can kind of contradict it. There's no contradiction in the Quran. There is nothing in there that can possibly ever be contradicted. So that to me was like the big turning point. And then I read about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and wow, that's all I could say. That I was like, wow, this man's amazing. You know, his achievements, and you know, from one person to be able to do what he did, and through him and his companions to spread the word the way they did, in the situation and under the light of the you know, the kind of, you know, everybody who wasn't Muslim at the time hated them, and they hated him. You know, they wanted to destroy him, they wanted to get rid of him, and he carried on, and he did everything through peace, and did everything through love. And I looked at that and I thought, well, you know, this is a total contradiction to what I've been reading. You know, I thought it was all like kind of Arabs, you know, living in the desert. You know, if anybody that weren't Arab, they killed them. So yeah, that was kind of the reasoning behind becoming a Muslim. But I didn't want to become a Muslim straight away because, you know, there's this aspect of, you know, there's this white person, you know, he's living there, all of a sudden he's got to change his lifestyle, he's got to change the people he associates with, he's got to kind of change everything about his life. So I did it slow by slow, I did it bit by bit, and I wanted to know and I wanted to understand everything there was to understand. But obviously, you know, to understand everything there is to do with Islam, you're going to be here for probably 300, 400 years. You know, it's just, the subject is huge. But it's to understand it within your heart, and it's to feel it in your heart. And I think this is what a lot of people forget. For me, being a Muslim is about what I feel in my heart, and what I feel, and who I want to be as a person. You know, and I think a lot of people, and this is no disrespect to people that are born Muslim, sometimes a lot of Muslims forget what it is to be a Muslim.
SubhanAllah.
They're Muslim by name, but not Muslim by nature. You know, for me, I chose to do this. I've chose to accept. I've chose to be this person. And I think a lot of people need to reflect. And I mean, the things that have saddened me a little bit is there's a lot of segregation. There's a lot of, you know, there's like, for instance, in Loughborough, it's a Bangladeshi mosque. Now I know people in Loughborough that won't go to that mosque because it is a Bangladeshi mosque. And that's sad. You know, why? I was in the mosque the other day. There was me. There was 3 white people in there. There was a convert from about 12 years ago. There was a convert from 6 months ago. There was me. There was a guy from France. There was a guy from Somalia, so he was black, there was some Asian guys there was some Arabic guys there. You know, that's the most multicultural thing you can ever see. What other faith on the planet will you see that? You won't see it anywhere. And the love and the connection, the bond is the same. It's irrelevant of where you come from. It's irrelevant of who you are. The relevance is in what you believe. And this is what kind of drew me to it, is the fact that it is multinational. It is multi-everything. Everybody comes together, and to be a Muslim, it's about love, and it's a love for everybody, not just a love for a fellow brother or a fellow sister. Love for everybody. You know, we as Muslims have got to show people what it is to be a Muslim, and this is what we don't do. You know, if we show people or non-Muslims that, you know, we're about love, we're about compassion, we're about kindness, we're about looking after people, we're about charity, we're about connecting everything together through love, you know, everybody will see what the beauty of Islam is. And that's what we need to do. And that is why I became Muslim.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Just one question, bro. You said that you met Imam Khalid and that. What was it that struck you to him that obviously you thought, oh, 1 minute?
I think it's a sense of humour. It's
Yeah.
really bad.
Wait till we get in the car.
No, I don't know what it is. I mean, I've always been a curious person. I've always wanted to know. Like I say, I mean, I worked in recruitment for years, so I had a lot to do with people from different backgrounds. I had a lot to do with Somalians, Iraqis, people from all over Europe, you know, wartime countries. You know, and the negative impression that you get from people, English people generally, is, you know, well, these people doing, you know, they're coming to sponge off the state, they're coming this, they're doing that. But it's only until you get to know them that you realise there's more to this story than meets the eye. I mean, an example I'll give is I was introduced to this guy from Zimbabwe. Now, he was a Christian, but, you know, to understand somebody why they come to this country, and his story was the most heart-wrenching story I'd ever read. He ran a radio station in Zimbabwe, and it was like an anti-Mugabe radio station. And Mugabe was trying to close down his radio station, managed to close him down, but he got pre-warning of it, so he got out of the country. Mugabe's regime murdered his mother, his father, his brothers, his sisters, his whole family to get him. Now, how can you argue with a man that comes to this country for that sort of freedom? So for me, it was like kind of, hearing stories like that made my mind open up. You know, and this is the point people get, is through ignorance and lack of knowledge. You know, and this is why we as Muslims need to give people the knowledge, not the ignorance. Give them the knowledge to know this is what we're about. And with that knowledge, they can take on what they want to take on. But they'll see the goodness, they won't see the negativity.
We, alhamdulillah, in reality, it wasn't me who was inspired by it, that's the truth of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened his heart towards the haqq, towards the truth. And he had pure and sincere intentions towards Allah, and so Allah gave him tawfiq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him increase in the deen. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes him amongst the scholars of the deen and the da'is of the deen, who eventually calls people towards the haqq, inshallah. Now, before